Hello and welcome to the DP World Tour Picks and Bets 2026 version. Skylar, Hoak here. I missed out on the first week in Dubai. Ryan Baroff filled in for me. Thank you, RB. Tom, it's great to see you. This is always the event that kicks off, in my opinion, the European DP World Tour for the year. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. I'd be better if my picks were actually any use last week. Thorman wasn't threatened. I mean, he kind of plays for us over here if you bet him at 8 places, but like otherwise pretty poor. But I think that's to be not expected. Obviously, loads of people did really well. I don't think anyone actually bet on Nacho Oliveira, but there was some predictable kind of players up there, right? I mean, I talked myself out of Marcus Armitage thinking he wasn't good enough, and he was hitting the ball well. And play really well, has played well in the release in the past. But yeah, I think it's one of those where we needed to have a bit of a watching brief, see who was in and out of form, who was carrying on things from last season. And one of my picks that I'll go into was, a really pleasant surprise in terms of whether he was going to keep up the form, and he did. And I think it's going to be, we talked about it on the kind of preview show with Baroff, like it's been relatively predictable who's going to be the kind of front runners this year on tour, right? I think we're left with a good crop, but a crop that you can kind of pick out the best from pretty easily. So once the kind of big guns go away and start playing signature events on the PGA Tour, there's going to be room for a lot of youngsters to come and impress.
For sure. We talked about that young Spanish crop, and one that we're very keen on for this week. And I almost like getting to be able to take shots early on with them, with these big guys. They're also coming off of breaks. We saw Rory come out great on Thursday, backpedal, Tommy's worst round in 6+ months. So they're also shaking off some rust too. I think the one that probably, at least to talk, obviously, congrats to Nacho. That was, super cool for him is he's definitely a spike player. It's been happening, but Shane Lowry gifting, the on 18 with the double bogey. I thought Jeff on Mayo's Amex show today kind of dug deep into Lowry, and I don't know if it's just we don't give him enough flack for how often it happens or how little wins have actually happened. It's interesting with him.
I was just about to say the same thing in the sense that I don't think he gets enough criticism, but I think the reason being is I think we have a sort of long leash for people that win a lot. We don't give Larafabal and Marcel Siem and all these kind of veteran players stick because it's they're volatile, they'll just come good at some point and win, and that's absolutely fine. Lowry's obviously under the microscope because he's this massive elite talent who should do a lot better. But I think the reason he kind of gets this long leash is that when he does win, it's the best event every single time. I know he won the Irish Open as an amateur. That's the biggest event to him at that time, right? The Portugal Masters is pretty average, but otherwise WGC, Bridgestone, the Abu Dhabi Championship, the Open, BMW PGA Championship, he can't have a better honor roll of wins. It is just how infrequent they are, and I think he's one of those players, and Fleetwood was for a certain amount of time, right? One of those players, because they can't get over the line in these kind of regular PGA Tour events, or couldn't until Fleetwood did. I think they really struggle to then come back and get themselves up. I think if they both just stayed on the World Tour, they just routinely knock out a win, every other season, right? Or even every season. But I think when you get in your own head about kind of trying to get over the line in a different tour and then have to come back and you are instantly the favourite or one of, it's probably quite hard to play that pressure. So he deserves the criticism. You can't just keep putting yourself in that position and failing. But I do see why it kind of happens as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's just interesting to think through because, again, I can back him in a major and feel pretty confident that, if he's there, he can win a tournament like that, but also I'm probably, and as a show, we've probably been one of the least Lowry, selections over the last, he hasn't been, I think we try to cherry pick him maybe at an event at a higher odds type of thing, but he hasn't been the most frequent for us, but he does come over into this week. I think we just kind of transition because a lot of those big guys, Rory, Fleetwood, Lowry, are all back. We are, again, this course to me is screams DP World Tour, right? Emirates, we've seen it forever. Rory won back-to-back years in 2023, 2024. Last year's winner, Tyrrell Hatton. I look at this course, it screams to me, you got to drive the ball great. I mean, Hatton isn't, looked at as like a prolific driver. I mean, last year, if you look at his stats, though, he was awesome off of the tee, ball striking wise. We know he's an amazing talent. But, if you look at other guys that have popped up, Laurie Cantor, Nicholas Norgard, Hillier last year, Maronk, Nikolai, all of these guys, McKibben, like these elite talented drivers are always incredibly interesting to me at this course. And I've also backed some of them at massive numbers because you get the amateurs that come over here too, which I always love. I think David Ford held a lead. I think Thor Bjornsson, I think he held a lead and bet him there. I always love the AMs when they get to play here too.
Yeah, I think the one thing you kind of nailed down there is the kind of off the tee, right? I think this is probably the course where it feels the most important. I feel like every week we go, it's advantageous to hit the ball long off the tee. And it's great if you can hit it long and straight. That's true of any golf course ever. But it's, especially true here because you do have these kind of generous-ish fairways. But if you do miss the fairway, you're in, not in disaster zone, but you are kind of missing out and giving up to the field, right? And I think, you look at last year, each of the top 5 all ranked kind of inside the top 6 strokes going off the tee. Like it's just a given that you have to kind of do that now. I mean, Hassan ranked 4th strokes going off the tee, Hillier 2nd, Laurie Cantor led the field, Rory McIlroy 5th, and Norgard Wallace 6th. That is just kind of what you do. And in 2024, it's similar. Rory, Maronk, Cameron Young, 1st, 2nd, and 5th off the tee, top 3 in the field. So it's very predictable that is the case. And when you look even back to the players, the honour list here is unbelievable. But go back to kind of the sort of Spaniards winning and Alvaro Quiros and Rafa Barapello, that you just think good drivers of the ball at that time. Then you've got Bryson DeChambeau kind of prior to his, I guess, complete bulking up, but a good driver of the ball nonetheless. And then it's just, I think that there's a couple of things here. That's obviously the most important part. That's kind of what I focus it all on is off the tee game. But I think there's a very good chance, and I may be guilty of it based on my selections, that we overreact to the fact that one of Rory or Tommy didn't win last week. Like I think everyone was just so convinced that one of those two was going to win, and the fact that they didn't, everyone's going to go, right, it's open season, and this is definitely going to be the case, right? And Rory McIlroy is warmed up with a very kind of average for him, 3rd place finish, and it felt like he was never really. I mean, he was he led after round 1, but it felt like he never really got going. And now he comes to an event that he's won 4 times. It's a world in which he probably just goes ahead and wins it. Maybe Fleetwood has a little bit of a slow spell, but I do think if you're going to do it, you have to take those kind of off the tee merchants, and that is the only way you're going to kind of get in contention. I don't think you can do it with these kind of luck box around the green, strong putting week type things. It is going to be, if you don't drive well, you're not going to contend. So there is at least a clear path to bigger odds.
For sure. And I mean, the nice thing is a lot of these younger guys, of course, have that in their game. I think the one, we left this show, always being big Jaden Scaper guys. And then for him to be where he is now, right? Like in the 2 months we didn't have a show, I guess he's the one that he can gain off the tee, but it's not really through the distance. It's through accuracy.
Yeah.
So of those younger guys, but then you just get all of them there. I mean, we can kick it off with a joint selection, probably one of the more popular ones we're going to see all week. But without having a ton of data on crossover events and trusting live strokes gain stats to the degree, David Puig is potentially a top 5 driver in the world. Right? Like that's really what it looks like. He had otherworldly numbers in round 1, like separated by the field by almost 2 strokes, I think, in round 1 last week. To do that when you're matching up against Rory and some of the other better guys there, like there's a chance he just, I mean, we kind of saw that with Penge when he finally got into some of those bigger events. Like I feel very similar to what Puig can be here. I think he's a no-brainer to kick it off for us.
Yeah, by the way, just don't want to move on too quickly from the fact that Marco Penge has changed his golf clubs.
Oh, I know. So sad.
When was the last time someone was successful moving to pitch? Did Wyndham Clark do it and then win the US Open? I feel like he's like the only person.
Yeah, well, Potgieter jumped to PXG too, both of them, which I'm very intrigued to see. And Penge has been sick since we bet him at the DP World Tour Championship.
Yeah.
You know, it's.
I actually feel like PXG was like live before live. Like this kind of like we get people to defect to this horrible manufacturer and like, you know. But anyway, don't want to get too far away from it. David Puig, he's played 17 tournaments on the DP World Tour. He's made 14 cuts. He's won already. He's got 3 third-place finishes, and he's got 3 other top 10 finishes. That's an incredible strike rate for someone of his, well, not just of his talent. That is kind of what his talent is, right? And I think the reason he doesn't get talked about enough is, you know, because of the live factor. He made that decision to turn pro, go to live, and he's kind of paid for it, right? Like he's not going to be able to get the PGA Tour card this year, as we kind of found out after we kind of did the preview show. But it feels like he's just constantly proving himself, and I think he's relishing that. Like, there's a lot of people that would kind of welch under that pressure, but the fact that he's just been so good in all those limited starts, even before he kind of got on this run of you know, winning and contending, it's just really encouraging. He was, and in addition to the fact that he drives it long, he was inside the top 25 already for equity this season as well. Now, I don't know how long that's going to last, but to be that accurate and long at the same time is a huge plus, and that's why he's able to gain the strokes that you kind of commented on. Already, you know, 3rd place finish last week in Dubai, 3rd at Ras Al Khaimah, top 5 finishes in Bahrain and Saudi. Clearly loves the Middle East, and he's now looking for his 3rd top 8 in his last 6 starts. I think people will look at it and go, well, I don't want to touch kind of 20-25-1 about Puig when Rory McIlroy and Tommy Fleetwood were in the field. This guy can conceivably go off as 12-1 favourite once these big guns are out of the way. Like, he's probably, we talked about Chikara and people like that, but Puig is probably the next big thing.
Yeah, yep. And I sneaked off by switching my Puig pick to Scaper in a tweet after the first round. People are going to say I definitely was up to no good with that, but that was my official pick, switching off of Puig but yes, I mean, that's the type of player that could just completely dominate. And again, it is a clear separation from the others in the off the tee skill when it is very competitive who he's playing it. Even on live, like he is driving against Bryson, Rahm, Burmeister, you know, like really good drivers of the golf ball that he can get some stats in. So yep, I think Puig there. Now the question really that I have, like along the lines of the others, is do you just front load at the top of the odds board with other guys that fit that type of skill? Meaning, I mean, potentially, you know, Angel Ayora is virtually very similar in that way. He just came out this morning, right, that he turned down a massive live offer from Sergio, wanting to really play in his way, shoe-in favorite to get his DP World Tour card this year. I'm pretty intrigued at just going Puig into Ayora at 35. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think I had some thoughts about Ayora, and the fact that I felt like he really just went off the boil in those last 2 events of the season. And it could age in the fact that he just, you know, doesn't really particularly like playing in South Africa, and Mauritius was just not the right golf course for him. That could easily be the case because he comes straight back into last week. He's top 5 after the first 2 rounds and 13th on the final day. I think with Ayora, there is just that glaring weakness around the greens. Like I know it won't show up necessarily in stuff. Like when you watch him in contention, there is always a bit of a dodgy shot in him. And that's my only concern, because otherwise he is basically Puig, right? Like we're talking about the similar, you know, Puig's got the win, but like very similar players. Shoe in for a PGA Tour card. Probably the next best kind of talent after Rasmus Nygaard Peterson that was, you know, in contention for that PGA Tour card last season. I just don't know. Like I feel like I've got a good read on Puig, and I feel like it's like really consistent. I can't work out if Ayora's guaranteed to go on or whether it's like a little bit of a flash, but the season suggests it's not. Like he was pretty consistent throughout the year.
Yeah, like I feel I feel pretty confident that he could step right in here. And again, it's either you bet him, kind of the known commodity of the DP World Tour land, or a Nikolai who's bounced back and forth, the RMP, who was the only one of the 10 golfers who got their DP World Tour cards to start their season, or got the PGA Tour cards to start his season here, which I find pretty interesting and probably motivating that he wanted to stay to do both, or the informed Hillier right next to him. You know, like I think that's, or I guess even then you talk about the other is, I mean, again, you don't get the competition, but like we were talking about Tom McKibben with his driver in the same light, you know, kind of basically before he made that live jump as one of the better ball strikers. So I don't know. I think there's a lot I could see and make arguments for at the top of the board.
Yes, it's interesting. So, like, I mean, just going back like through it, like a Euro at 21 years of age, making 9 top 10s in his first DP World Tour season probably suggests we shouldn't be worried, right? But the one that I prefaced the kind of the start of this with, that I was worried about whether their form would tail off and was pleasantly surprised, was Hillier. And I am going to back him this week in the sense that I just could not see it lasting. Like it was really strong approach play that was leading it. It didn't necessarily sort of make sense to me that he was going to be that strong of an iron player for this length of time, but he has been now. He's been 5th, 7th, and 3rd in strokes gained approach his last 3 events. He's now coming back to a golf course where he was 2nd last year behind Tyrrell Hatton, who was a 5th full-hole leader. He was 2nd in strokes gained after tee as we started at the show as well. And he's now gone, 5th, 16th, 5th, 6th, and 2nd. And when he was 16th for the DP World Tour Championship, he was 2nd at halfway. The form is just impossible to ignore. And look, I'm probably one event too late. It might eventually come to an end. But the fact that he was, bogey free on Sunday, he shot a 65, eventually only finished a 1 shot shy of Nacho Elvira, was 8th off the tee last week again. I just don't see a world in which the good times don't carry on for Hillier, especially as we talked about where it looks like it's relatively obvious that who's going to get the PGA Tour card. You're one of them, Hillier another. Like it feels like they're 2 of the 10 already written up.
Yeah, and always like Hillier being 27 still like kind of is a little bit of a mind, like I feel like he's been around forever. I mean, good friend Jude, who has been on so many of these guys, since their amateur days, like was a huge Hillier guy, like right out of the gates. So, I mean, I can see a path again if we are thinking the PGA Tour guys or the best in the world guys are a little bit more susceptible this week. You could easily end up with 3 there in the 30s, or 20, 30, 30 and be totally fine. I think my lean is still Aora, but we've found success chasing guys down the odds board based off of form, especially in the current state of the DP World Tour, where if you are just going to be somebody who repeats form, you're just probably one of the better players that exists on the tour right now.
Like that's like every time I write a preview at the moment and come onto one of these shows, Angel Ayora comes up in the notes and it's like, oh, I don't think this is gonna last, and then it does, and eventually, and the same with Nigel Peterson last year. I felt like there was a lot of excitement around him, and maybe we needed to temper it. We didn't. Like he's carried it on, really, really impressive. So yeah, I don't think we need to shy away from these players. I think we just continue to back them, and as you said at the start of the show, take them in an opportunity where they're against these bigger players, where because Hillier and Puig and Ayora are all going to be kind of sub 20 to 1 soon, or at least sub 20 to 1. Like it's written in the stars. So
yeah, it almost feels like it's just going to be a weird year now that basically again that big crop has left. That it's maybe a little bit thinner of guys that exist there, but it's just I don't know. I feel like it just gets more spooky, I guess maybe is the way I'd say, on the DP World Tour every year with how you feel about the crop of talent staying on the tour, but using it as kind of their leap to it.
And I think that's because like the established ones that have probably been overdue a PGA Tour card have gone, right, in the last few years. It's like McIntyre, Fox, Houghton Lee, whoever, those types of players. Kanza got his, and then obviously you turn it down. Those types of players are gone. Tristan Lawrence got one last year, Rosner, whatever it might be. But now it's like, right, okay, Nigel Pearson straight in, Ayora probably going to go straight in. That's when it becomes difficult for the DP World Tour not to survive. It will always survive because there'll just be a conveyor belt of these players. But it just makes it, I think, actually more straightforward for us. It's like, look, these guys are going to be the good ones. You can probably bet on one of them to win all year, and they will win. But it probably makes it harder to find value further down the field. So it's a sort of a catch-22, really.
Yeah, for sure. I think you brought up one of the examples there that I think is probably the mid-range. I don't want to say obvious selection, but the one that stands out if we're going down the same path of, driving prowess. And I was a little befuddled that Laurie Cantor made the jump back to live after fighting so hard to get back in the Players Championship. And it's just a complete flip-flop. But I mean, again, somebody who probably takes, you've chatted with Laurie, it just takes, at least followed with Laurie, takes pride in being a part of that team and wants to, make noise that way and maybe be a little bit safer in regards to what the outcomes can be, financial wise and just everything. And doesn't change the type of golfer he is. And this type of golf course that's going to be there, I think he's still probably very motivated to continue to play well and to get into events. So tell us why Laurie Cantor makes more sense than that.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the things I kind of wrote in my preview that if David Pooge has got to continue to prove himself, then Laurie Cantor's got a hell of a job based on the fact that he's worked so hard to get back, got his PGA Tour card, and then gone again, as you said. But I think the one thing that really strikes me as promising is how well he played and the evolution he made after coming back from Live. I think it would be very easy to go, right, I was a nearly man before I went to Live. I'll come back. I'll pick up, a win in a really small field and then carry on. But he seems to just be a far better player for that experience, whether it's anything to do with that or just maturing, whether the fields are getting weaker, whatever it might be. But now a two-time winner on the DP World Tour, it does feel like he's now going to come in and take advantage of these events that he can still play in. And that's why you come to the Dubai Desert Classic, where he's got 2 top 4 finishes, the 4th on debut in 2021, and then 3rd last year when he was a bit more established. I just, for me, perfect profile of golfer. Hits the ball incredibly well, excellent driver of the golf ball. He's already a winner in the Middle East in Bahrain. He's got the 3rd and 4th place here, 3rd and 5th at the DP World Tour Championship, and 12th in Qatar as well. And, that 3rd in the DP World Tour Championship came just before Christmas. You look back, he was 2nd in Korea, and then that 3rd the following week. He was even 10th halfway in Abu Dhabi as well. He's really just in great form if you ignore the fact that he kind of withdrew in his final event of the year, which I don't know, that was just a poor start and just wanted to get out of there, anything to do with the move to Live, whatever it might be. But that is the only kind of black mark against what has been a really good run of form for Cantor. And as we say, the perfect profile for it. Great driver of the golf ball. Really expected to succeed here, as he's shown with 2 top 4s. And I was just really pleasantly surprised when he was kind of 80-1, I think, when I put him up this morning. Now 60-1 as well. I think that's plenty good enough in this field.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely agree. I did not expect. I think you can make just as much of an argument that he could have been in the other crop of golfers, a tier below that. That really didn't get there.
Really surprised that in exactly the same point of the market, he is bigger than Thomas Dietrich.
Mm-hmm.
Because Thomas Dietrich's got to deal with this. Laurie Cantor's been there and done it. He's faced all the kind of criticism and all this sort of thing. Dietrich's got to face up to this again. And look, he finished strongly with 7th and 6th in his last 2 starts in 2025. But he's had 2 missed cuts and then a 9th here. Nothing really that great otherwise. He was the 36-hole leader in 2021. But yeah, I'm surprised that Cantor, who makes just as much sense as Dietrich and doesn't have all the kind of, well, he has got it, but he's doing it for the second time, hasn't got to sort of struggle in the way Dietrich has with probably facing people for the first time. Definitely going to get interviewed about it. If he gets in contention, it's going to be even rifer, right? I think the DP World Tour do a good job, and the commentary team do a good job of kind of taking the players at face value and treating them as if they're just part of the tournament, and not really diving too much into the things. From what I can really remember about commentary, and I think certainly like Tim Barter and people like that, just take them at face value, treat them as a part of the tournament. But that's not going to change how awkward it could be around the place. So yeah, just surprised those two, in the same part of the market, there wasn't a bit more disparity between them.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, yeah, with the again, it's such a weird to live in such a niche where guys like Byung-Hyun An and Thomas Dietrich are meaningful golfers to you and I who follow and like that stuff does take a chink at the armor of all of it. I mean, obviously on a big global scale, it doesn't run the same as what the first type of crop of guys that they got, but definitely still meaningful golfers in the way that we do business. So yeah, I mean the eyeballs that have left Cantor when Dietrich and another one, Elvis Smiley in the field, some of them are there. So yeah, I don't think there's eyeballs on Cantor at all.
That's a really weird one, the Elvis Smiley one.
It makes sense though if they're adding that fourth Australian guy. He's probably the best young Aussie.
Yeah, like it makes perfect sense for them. Don't get me wrong, like it's great for them to swap out Matt Jones for Elvis Smiley. And I guess like if everything you hear about the kind of Australians, they were kind of probably the best suited to going and doing this team event outside of maybe the South African team.
Yeah.
So it makes sense from that perspective. But for him, like it felt like he was making such great strides. I love it if he's gone there thinking it doesn't really matter. I'm going to continue to improve as a player, and when this is all sorted out, I'll make my way on the PGA Tour. Then, if he has that kind of confidence level, great. And I don't think you can kind of.
I just don't know how you can have that mindset though anymore with how much like the failed. I mean, of course, the Brooks rule. At this point, I just don't think it's happening.
Yeah, the Brooks ball is just funny, isn't it? Like just a completely shaft like Mickelson.
Yeah, I mean, Roll-Up nailed it. I feel like that was also well played from their side. Like it's a good game of chess.
That was the first punch live of PGA Tour of land on live, right? Like the first real like we've got your player. But if John Rahm goes back to the PGA Tour, which he'll have to decide in the next 2 weeks, I don't want to say it's all over, but like it's got
to be over. Same with Bryson, right? Like if either of those two left, I feel like.
I mean, Bryson's not going to leave. Is my very.
I just don't think those guys can, right? Based off of, I mean, who says
he just wants to do the YouTube thing and he's going to get 500 million. Like he's in the best position possible.
Yeah.
But I do think Rahm wants to come back.
Yeah, Patrick Reed came out today and said he would basically. Like he still thinks very highly of the PGA Tour and like makes sense as it being, the number one tour. I don't know. It's we could go on tangents. We'll get back to our field. But yes, I mean, very relevant with a lot of these guys, of course. Yes. Right. So if we stayed in the mid range, I mean, there's not that many golfers. Like, again, this is where you kind of fit in, like. These guys going back and forth. I thought Ewan could have made a little bit more noise last week.
I was really close to betting him last week, and I thought he would be the one that would get a bit of love this week.
Yeah. He had a sneaky love last week, too. I don't know. I think he made some sense last week for sure.
Yeah. Like, and he was 9th after 54 holes last week, and we love that kind of form where it's, an obvious drop off in the final round, whatever it might be. 36-hole leader here last year, finished 16th. He's just really hard to trust.
Yeah.
But he is. Sorry to cut you off, Sky, but like he is like the perfect skill set. Like he's in that kind of Cantor mold, right?
Yeah.
And kind of gives that, emits that kind of confidence and you believe he can go and win an event of this magnitude. It's just so hard. Like I feel like he can go and shoot 80 this week.
He's one in the Middle East too, right? Yeah. The one that I kind of caught some eyes coming back was Nicholas Norgard Moeller. Starting again, if you think of the driver and what he's done last week, he popped a little bit came back. And again, this is more like cherry picking a skill set down here. Did you have, I guess the only other, the polarizing player at 100 to 1 is, what do you think of Dustin Johnson in his current state? And does that worth the speculation?
I looked at, like, while you were talking about the others there, like I looked at Dustin Johnson and just sort of familiarized myself again with how he finished last year, because I felt like it was good signs, wasn't there? There was a couple of good signs for him. I think he played well in the live event towards the end of the year. I think he played okay in Philippines. I don't think so. But it's so hard.
I really liked him at the Open, and he played well at the Open too. I think that was just like he's shown up and done well at Portrush and done. But I don't think it's worth it here. It's good to see him. I like it. Like, I like to have him here.
Yeah, I like him back. And I think, like, if you told anyone that Dustin Johnson would be 100 to 1 in this field ever again in his career, you wouldn't expect him to go into his late years. You would never think it. But he has fallen off. And it is I don't know if he's kind of semi-quit or whatever it might be. He's the type of person that could just shoot the lowest round of the day, though. I have no strong sentiment towards him.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm good holding off. Okay, who else stood out to you, triple digits?
Yeah, so my final selection is Brandon Stone. I think I'm a little bit too much of a Brandon Stone sympathizer based on kind of him being pretty good when I kind of really got into kind of handicapping things. But there is also some merit to it. Like, he finished off the year with 23rd and 9th place finishes. The 23rd at the Alfred Dunhill was probably just he was, one of the people that lost out because of the 3 rounds, because he opened with 64, he was third after round 1, shot at 74, played way out of it, because even coming back with 67 on the Saturday or whatever, whenever the third round was played, he still only finished 23rd. But that gave him a bit of a springboard to go to the Mauritius Open. He was third after round 1 again, 4th going into the weekend, finished 9th. We know with Brandon Stone, the skill set is driver and putting, right? That has been his career. And if you look back to last year, I was quite surprised actually to see that he was 14th in straight to get off the tee last year. I know he had some spike sort of events, but I don't remember him being kind of that consistent with the driver. And you go back kind of 5 years, and 5 years is an awful long time in golf, but he was second here behind Paul Case. He'd already finished 7th here in his second start of the golf course. And even a year after finishing second, he was 9th after round 1, 17th going into the weekend. So he's made plenty of noise at this golf course and enough good signs with his driver in 2025 that I think he can get in the mix here. And he is obviously, like I said, like most South Africans, he's much better at home. But he does have that kind of big win at the Scottish Open. And I really like him. I think South Africans have had a really good run here. If you look, Ernie Els won it and finished runner-up 3 times, I think it was, in 6 years. And there's been 3 runner-ups since then, South Africans. So it's a good place for them to come and play. I think a lot of them kind of base themselves out here, right? But yeah, I just think twice Ernie Els won in that span, by the way. I just think it's a good price at 175 to 1 in a field where, if it's going to get a bit weird, he probably comes to the fore in that respect. There was enough players last week, like the Armitages, like obviously Elvira winning, that give you enough confidence that you can put a long shot in. Albeit what I said at the start of the show, where like we may be overthinking that now that Rory McIlroy didn't just come out and win. But yeah, there was enough. Like, you look at last week, you got Armitage, you've got Guerrier, who I thought was a good price last week. Fratelli's so weird, right? I guess Stone's pretty similar to Fratelli. But like, that's the type of player you're talking about, I think.
To me, if you've listened to this show since we've been in Inception for 5 years, you could close your eyes and you knew that Brandon Stone was on Tom Jacobs' betting card, without a doubt. A ball striking course, type of thing that makes sense. Oh, Brandon Stone, because for sure, again, if you just even held over the name, you can make an argument for that type of player that has that. There was 2 guys when I got deeper here that stood out from looking at it. A golfer, I think I bet for potentially 6 consecutive weeks because like end of last summer, who was playing really well at courses I didn't think made sense, that was doing it via his long distance. Any thoughts on Mikkel Lindberg?
Yeah, I think it's just one of those where I want to see him carry it on. Like that's like he was so good towards the end of last year that it almost surprised me how like I know we always talk about like him and Del Rey and all these people that like when they spike.
Well, they'll raise the other one I want to talk about. Yeah,
like it makes perfect sense that they would have spike events. Like their skill set is so unique. But Lindberg really just took off and was really consistent. Suddenly became a player that if he carried it on could end up backdooring into a PJ Tour card. So it depends what we think he's becoming. Is he suddenly one of the more talented players on the tour upcoming because everyone's leaving, or is it a purple patch? But in terms of skill set, what we're looking for, he makes perfect sense. And he's nearly 200 to 1.
Yeah, that's really where like him and Del Rey. Del Rey was the other one that I'm going to bet. So with Del Rey, where he basically was somebody we were super keen on when he got his tour card on the DP World Tour, just because of what we saw in some of these insane spikes from him. A winner this past year, which again almost feels forgotten about, that he won early on in the year and then didn't even sniff really a PGA Tour card, right? 49th, or no, I think 49th is this year's ranking so far. But like he didn't sniff anything from where he could have gotten to, but that was a driver heavy course. But what intrigued me was I think it was the second to last event. Yeah, that Abu Dhabi Championship, where I think it was after 3 rounds or after 3 rounds, he was T8 and shot a 64 round 2. So that plus, despite like the bad finishes, right? Like even on last week, finishes T42. Believe he was 4th in off the tee. Even Alfred Dunhill, another top 10 off the tee performance, despite being T40. So I just think that Middle East kind of pop he had recently, plus we've known him to win at a big course that can require a driver, I think speculative enough that I'm willing to go in on him.
Well, the fact again, like the win that we basically forget about was at the Ras Al Khaimah as well, another release and event. He is just like you said the 49th was his ranking this year. He finished 53rd last year.
Yeah.
He won and finished 53rd is kind of everything we need to know about him last year. And it's just the approach play, right? The approach play is generally pretty terrible, which we know when you're a big driver is harder to kind of rank for.
But you shouldn't be that bad,
he is bad. But there has been signs, as you said, there has been signs of that kind of creeping in and being better. And it was his iron play in Abu Dhabi that kind of led to a decent kind of performance. His iron play wasn't good last week. It was all off the tee again. But yeah, strikes me as a player that could go the lowest on any given day. Like could go 63, 73 or 73, 62, whatever it might be. Whatever way around it is, gets the right tee time he wants. But in terms of just confidence of winning, is that there isn't much, right? But that's true of basically anyone above 100 to 1, I think, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and go, like, I really trust Brandon Stone. Like, I like the profile, and I think there's slight more consistency, which is wild to say about Brandon Stone, than there is, like, a Lindberg and a Del Rey at the start of this season. But, yeah, it's hard because after this, it's very slim pickings. Like, you suddenly realise the difference between this field and last week's, in the sense of like it was a 60, 70 man field last week. The odds were kind of really short wherever you wanted to go. And now you kind of got these 400 and 500 to 1 players who, some of them are playing good golf. They just immediately written off because they can't hit it long off the tee.
Yep.
Do you go back to Fratelli? Like I don't think he ever strings 2 results together, but 400 to 1 about a player that actually really likes this golf course.
I would at 400. I would make the argument just to go back Xander Lombard.
Yeah.
I mean,
Isn't he a
2 of
bit
his last 3 events were down in Q school, and then he was almost won Mauritius or top 5 Mauritius, right?
Yeah.
Like we talked about how he's going to be 28-1 a month from now.
Correct.
At this point, it doesn't look like that, and he's 400-1 in this event. I don't know his history here though.
His history. Let's have a look. 3 missed cuts out of 5, but 16th 2 years ago, he was 7th at halfway.
Yeah.
It feels like a couple of years ago, it felt like he was a sort of big driver, right? And
right. It's not really
It's not been the same the last season.
I don't remember what injury he overcame, but I don't know if that was a factor.
It almost certainly is, right? Like any sort of injury is going to remove kind of distance. You're in any sort of pain.
Yeah.
So if he's back to kind of being able to move it off the tee, then absolutely. I mean, hitting it long off the tee is what ruined Dylan Fratelli. So I'm not sure I want to play him where he's going to try and absolutely smash the ball. But I'm just very surprised he's 400-1 when he conceivably had a chance to win last week.
Yeah.
And actually put 3 made cuts in a row together at the end of last year, which is not Dylan Fratelli. I mean, one of them was an Ed Bank, and if he could have missed a cut, he would have done. But I just think there's an interest at the price. But otherwise, I think it's very obvious what we're targeting and where we should be targeting in terms of the odds board.
Yep. The only other conversation was around the amateurs who had gotten to the event. So, I mean, Ethan Fang, I don't think Fang's that big of a hitter from my understanding. I think he's out of Oklahoma State. But he played well in some big time events. But I think the one that I was interested in was Christian Moss, because I believe we've seen him a handful of times, top 4 in South Africa previously, does hit it long. So he was somebody that definitely at least was worth consideration. They definitely priced it in though. I'm surprised we didn't get like Koiven here. Koiven here would have been awesome to get because we've gotten the number 1 AMs before. I mean, Ford, like I said, Thor Bjornsson, we've definitely gotten these. Ludwig played. I think Ludwig is what we might have bet him when he played well here too. So I wish we would have gotten Koiven, but overall, it's just good to be back in the saddle for the DP World Tour.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was very surprised we didn't at least mention Yuvraj Sandhu, who is apparently the best player in India right now. 3 wins, 3 seconds, and a 7th in his last 7 events, or whatever the maths was on that. Like he's basically had 1 miscut in that run. But I guess he's just. I mean, I looked very briefly at whether he's ever played well in the DP World Tour, and the answer was no. But yeah, I mean, when you're playing that well, and actually when you look at the India Championship, when he missed the cut, gained a lot on distance.
He did. He was like 20 to the good almost there. Yes, he was the one. I mean, we've definitely bet him before. I feel we bet every one of these examples of guys, But yeah, I mean, that recent form is quite remarkable. I think once we get rid of the big guys, and if he doesn't have performances, and we get on, I guess we got to get his stats a little bit more from this side of things. But if he is that type of hitter, that'd be very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we just don't have enough sample size, and the sample size we do have suggests that he's not cut out for this level, and that's almost certainly the case with most Indian golfers, even though they likely get. I think it actually just speaks to how well someone like a Shubhankar Sharma did for that run, right? And Anaban Lahiri, right? It's amazing to actually translate that into the big tours, because there is a gulf between the India Tour and the DP World Tour. Yeah,
I'm noting that though for looking into those stats for future, because that would be pretty fun to see. But okay, let's give a shout out to our audio listeners. You can find us on Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, The Mix, available on all podcast platforms. Super appreciative of the support from you guys, from Mayo Media Network. Goes a long way into another big year ahead of us. Really, excited as always to get back in the saddle with you, Tom. We always get so much support on this show, so super thankful for it. If you can go through your betting card one more time from the top for me.
Yep, so it's David Pooge now at 20-1, Daniel Hillier at 35-1, Laurie Cantor at 60-1, and then I couldn't resist Brandon Stone at 175-1.
All right, I'm joining you on Pooge, 20-1. I'm going to go with Angel Ayora at 35-1, Laurie Cantor, 60-1, Mikkel Lindberg at he is 190 is the best price here in the States, and then Alejandro Del Rey at 200 to 1. Let's get a little joint winner here, Tom. Let's kick it off in style for the year, and then let's look ahead. What's ahead for us at the DP World Tour? We should be getting close to our normal field starting next week, right? I mean, we have Byron, so that's going to be a big shift going into next week.
Yeah, you've got Patrick Reed is playing in Bahrain, which is, I guess, just what the live guys are going to do. Kansas playing there as well, but that is very much the Guidos, the Marcel Seams, Nicholas Norgards, etc. that we know and love. So Sergio Garcia playing in Bahrain.
Yeah, because I mean, this stretch run, right? You go Bahrain, and then we're almost to the Magical Kenya season. It goes Qatar first, and then I like this international swing that they get is really strong. I'm a fan of these first 6 events for sure. So you can find us as always right here. You can find Tom on Twitter at TomJacobs93. You can find me at Skyhook DFS. Super appreciative. We'll catch you guys all next week. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, guys.